Hi, Chalk Squad, it's Dylan.
From the grave, it's Andrew.
From the grave?
That's died.
So dark. Okay. All right. Well, you know what's not dark? The episode you're about to listen to. Or maybe it is, because here's the deal. The episode you're about to listen to was originally a bonus episode of the show that was behind a paywall. And as part of such, it was not edited or censored or really anything. So I've gone ahead and marked it explicit for the public publishing. It might not be, but I figure we better cover our bases. And I'm not gonna go through and re-listen to all of these to verify. So just have fun with unedited, off the cup, probably drinking alcohol, Dylan and Andrew.
Yeah.
Because
it was a joy to make. I hope it's a joy to listen to.
Yep. So, anyways, enjoy this, guys. Hey folks, Dylan here. It's the bonus show again, Canon Commentaries. We're continuing our fanfic journey tonight.
Yes, we are. We're concluding it. I mean, not all fanfic forever, but the fanfics we've been reading.
Mm-hmm.
We get to find out the fate of Alicia and the Infinity Stones, as well as the watch.
Clock.
Yeah,
Watch, Pocket Watch.
Pocket Watch and Connie Jason Love and Wit. Connie Love, maybe? Was that, if I remember correctly?
Maybe John and Constance. They've got
John and Constance.
There's the weird Doctor Who second reality thing going on.
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot that they totally brought in the Daleks at the end of the last chapter.
Yep. But that's not where we're starting. We're starting with yours. Can you just give the listeners a bit of a summary of where we've been here?
Okay, so Alicia, moving from I believe Massachusetts to Indiana, and is upset. Her family gets stranded in Odyssey for like a week or so, and is upset about moving. Becomes frustrated with God, feels powerless in her life, and then she gets plant powers, and finds out that there's like 8 other elemental people with different superpowers that all happened because they touched a rock in McAllister Park, because of course. Yep.
The other people are all who are part of this club are all super Christian.
Mm-hmm.
She fights some of them.
Yes.
They leave.
Yeah.
She then makes a boy.
Yes. Plant AI type thing.
Sure.
Sentient. I don't know how much sentience he has.
He seems pretty alive.
Yeah. And then now she's enacting her plan. Oh, last time we read, she kidnapped a bunch of people and kept them in the basement.
All the Sunday school teachers.
Yeah.
And then she was having a showdown with the pastor.
Yep. And so now we are on chapter 8, spreading disarray.
Okay. I'm waiting with bated breath.
There's bait on my breath. The next day, I secretly kidnapped a few of the male adults I knew went to Odyssey Church. Later, I met their kids at Wit's End. I could put in more details on how I kidnapped them, but that could take up an entire chapter. Simply, I kidnapped them with vines and put them in my hideout's basement, the same way I kidnapped the Sunday school teachers on the Sunday school board and the pastor.
I understand you have to read from your iPad. You also have to figure out how to talk into a mic while doing it.
Yeah, no. Maybe this is the way? I don't hate this. Anyway, I entered into Wit's End and met up with Mr. Whitaker. After he was finished taking care of a customer, I looked at Wit with green eyes, hungry for his imprisonment in my hideout's basement. Wow. Since he has the strongest Christian belief in Odyssey, he became my main victim. Not why is
we're
victim
finally
the word?
coming back to Wit's End, though.
Yeah.
So good. We got more Odyssey.
I sat in the front of the counter and greeted Wit, feeling tugged in my heart to leave him alone. I tried to take over my mind and control my feet by walking out the door, but I stood firm. He gave me a warm greeting. Hi, Alicia. Are you feeling better from when we first met? Yes, as a matter of fact, I came to apologize. I'm sorry for leaving on you when you were trying to make me feel welcome. Where I came from, I was used to people being mean and or ignorant towards me. Meeting new people who are Meeting new people who are first nice to me scares me. Thanks. Can you forgive me? I felt reluctant while I spoke, but my conscience always knows how to make me apologize, even when I don't want to do so. Amen. Of course I can forgive you. There's no need to cry over it. He noticed I started to shed tears and gave me a tissue. Gesundheit with a tongue out emoji. I wiped off my tears and asked him if he could introduce me to some of the kids here at Wits End. He was delighted and took me to a room where there were kids about 7 to 11 years old. Wow. He introduced me to them, then left the room to attend the counter. I met the kids as they were playing a game of Bible charades. I joined them in the next game for a game of Bible trivia. I told them about myself and said plenty of jokes, but I did not give them a hint that I was against religion. Amen. Me at LBC. How was Sunday school without a teacher? Was it depressing or what? I asked the kids when I had the courage. It felt awkward and lonely. We spent half of Sunday school by ourselves. Then we ended up with the people who are terrible at teaching. I wonder why this had to happen to us, a boy named Adam explained. I wondered why God has forsaken us. It felt great to say out loud for once, although my heart pierced itself after I said it. The kids in the room looked at me confused, so I explained why I said what I did. Think of it. God has promised he would never forsake you, right? He promised he would be with you and those who believe and trust him. If that's so, why did he allow the Sunday school teachers to disappear? Which leaves us with no Sunday school, I mean. God must have forsaken us since he left us on our own at a young age. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I almost said without a trace, but that would have given me away as a possible kidnapper. Yes, but that doesn't make sense. Romans 8:28 says that all things work together for good to those who love God. I believe something good will come out of this in the end. A girl named Hannah spoke up. But Romans 8:28 actually says all things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. God does not have a reason for all of this. Have any of you been called by him? Every kid in the room shook their heads. Since none of you have been called, you can't get any good out of this. God has forsaken you, so forget him. If he doesn't care about you, forget about him. I hoped mixing up the Bible verse with my thoughts would confuse them into backsliding. The kids looked at each other.
The devil's favorite tactic.
Oh, yeah. The kids looked at each other thoughtfully. They agreed. They said that God had left them and they should start living their lives differently. Wow. I grinned at my victory.
This is why Wit has to police the kids of Odyssey, because they are so impressionable.
They are
that
so impressionable.
Anybody saying anything, they'd be like, oh, yes, we must believe.
Yeah. They're not allowed to watch Teletubbies because they used the sun as a beach ball one time and the kids were out and just... It was a mess. I ran into Mark as I passed through the doorway.
I'm sorry, did listeners get what joke Andrew was trying to make there? Because I did not.
Oh. Thinking that they are so impressionable that they could be swayed by Teletubbies into believing the sun is a beach ball.
Is that like a Teletubbies thing that the sun is a beach ball?
I think it is, at least in one episode in my mind.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Carry on.
I ran into Mark as I passed through the doorway, and he asked if I could head in there and be allowed to meet the kids. I let him, not wanting to get involved. I waited outside of Wits End for Mark and kidnapped more male adults from the church while doing so. Love that. Finally, Mark arrived outside, and I asked him what happened. He remained as calm as possible and said that there was plenty of introducing and how amazing Odyssey is. I want to get the subject over with, as I noticed he sounded nervous the more he talked about the kids. Yeah, that's great, I interrupted. Listen, I will do more kidnapping today, then check on the prisoners tomorrow. I have to head back to my parents. Are you going to let your parents rule your life when you have powers to provide for your needs? Why not go ahead and kidnap them too and get it out of the way? Mark sounded reasonable. What he said was what I really wanted to do, but I had no reason to do it. Really, Mark? I replied. If I do that, I will end up taking care of my humiliating brother myself because my powers can't provide for him all the time. Besides, I want my parents to be there unaware and unharmed to see what happens to me when my time comes. Mark didn't understand what I said, or understand what I meant when I said my time, but he let it pass. For the next few days, I kidnapped more faithful male adults. Really only the males, huh? Until I kidnapped nearly every male adult in Odyssey except for the non-church members and Mr. Whitaker. I also had to kidnap a guy who I caught making video recordings of me using my powers ever since I was zapped by the stone. I still have the tapes now. Every other day I checked on my prisoners in the basement of my secret hideout with Mark, while he checked on them every day. For the same few days, I discouraged all the church kids in Odyssey into backsliding. Each time I did that to some of the kids and then leave them, Mark immediately went back and spent some time with them. I slowly grew suspicious and wondered what he had been doing with them the whole time, but I tried to let it slide. A god always lets their creations make their choices. When Saturday finally came, and the time also came for me to accomplish my plan and to begin the battle against Jesus Christ. That's how the chapter ends.
Okay.
For your information, Diary, I couldn't write you yesterday because of service night, and I came home exhausted from worshiping my heart out to the Lord. Please don't ask why I'm telling you that while I'm writing about the time I disliked God. Don't spoil the plot. I also wanted to let you know about one final thing. I'm in the middle of an important school project and won't be able to write in you again until Saturday. In the meantime, I'm trying to think of a good name for you because I can't keep calling you Diary. Anne Frank named her Diary Kitty. I need to think of something cute like that.
All right. A couple things there. One, you really did just spoil it for me.
That's what it said.
I know, but I didn't need to know the author's intent because now I know that she's not anti-God, which was going to be my first question is, do we think she comes around in the final chapter or just keeps going? Andrew, I didn't know.
I was pretty firmly in the camp that she would come around at a certain point. But we are on the last chapter.
All right. And any other predictions for the final chapter? Do we think that the final chapter is actually going to tie up all the loose ends and conclude the story?
No.
Or do we think it's just going to leave us wanting more?
D, all of the above. I think it's going to tie up a lot of them. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if they never let out the prisoners or something like that.
All right. Fair. Let's find out, guys.
Or the other elementals that are in Odyssey.
Yeah. It's true. Will the other elementals show up?
That was my thought, right?
Are they going to show up with Jesus? Is she going to try and literally fight Jesus?
I think it might be like a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers thing where they all combine to be Jesus. At least that's what I'm hoping.
All right.
I know you must have a lot of questions, Diary. Unfortunately, they're going to have to wait. We are about to hit the climax. My time had come, and it all happened 2 Saturdays ago. Okay, so we're writing in the past tense. I woke up ready to have my revenge on moving and to declare war against the Lord. I dressed myself up into a tank top with a wide neck to show my chest. Thanks for that inclusion. A pair of very long socks with holes, a pair of jean shorts, and a dress to cover my real outfit underneath. I never had jean shorts before, so I borrowed a pair from the thrift store. A tree did the stealing, and Mark did the delivering.
So much going on.
Let me just reread that. I woke up ready to have my revenge on moving and declare war against the Lord. I dressed myself into a tank top with a wide neck to show my chest, a pair of very long socks with holes, a pair of jean shorts, and a dress to cover up my real outfit underneath. I had never had jean shorts before, so I borrowed a pair from the thrift store. A tree did the stealing, and Mark did the delivering.
If you're listening and want to cosplay as this character, please do. Please send me a picture. It doesn't count if you don't send a picture. Then I went down to breakfast with my parents. The worst Halloween costume of all times.
It's certainly
like
up
if you
there.
Thought my Power Boy shirt required a lot of explaining to people. Imagine a Halloween costume of a fanfic for Adventures in Odyssey that barely relates to Adventures in Odyssey.
Exactly. Then I went down to breakfast with my parents and ate foods they rejected I could eat. What?
Sure.
We were going to see the moving trucks at the shop. So I asked my parents if I could.
Yeah, all broken down.
So I asked my parents if I could wish my friends goodbye. They happily agreed, and I immediately headed off to Wits End to finally capture my main victim. I decided to go by myself.
Whitaker, aka Jesus Christ.
I mean, this is really blurring the lines.
Or I believe he's got the father. Jason's Jesus Christ, right? But
yeah, the whole name not a number thing. Yeah. I entered the building with a fake smile as a warm welcome of the door's hangover bell. "Hi, Mr. Whitaker," I cheerfully greeted him. I remained standing in the front of the doorway, looking at Whit with green eyes and an upset face. "Hi, Alicia," Whit replied. "Are you all right? You look upset." I was upset that despite all the terrible things that had happened around him, he was still retaining his faith in God. "No, I'm not all right," I yelled. "Despite all the things I've done in Odyssey, disappearing church members," which, disappearing, is that the word?
I don't know, but I like that she's just coming out with all of it to it. She's
disappearing
like,
church members and withdrawing kids from Jesus, and you're still playing Job. Which I almost read as Job.
Hey, well done, Andrew.
Thank you. Mr. Whitaker was shocked at my response and what I had just said. "Wait a minute. All the mysterious disappearances happening around here where you're doing?" "You bet," I began as I prepared my vines from the ground in the basement under his feet. "Now that you're in on this, you know my secret. You're mine." I finished my speaking, and the vines I had sprang up through the floor and wrapped themselves around Whit. He tried screaming, but a vine quickly covered his mouth. "There's no point in screaming, Mr. Whitaker. Nobody will be able to hear you because no one is around." He wanted to talk to me, so I let him speak for himself. Mistake. "I don't understand, Alicia," he said. "Why are you doing all of this? What good will it do?" I decided to give him an explanation. "Well, I'm doing this to prove that I am right, everybody else is wrong, and I can become God." Classic.
Yeah, no, of course. That's why I do everything.
Exactly.
That's why I have this podcast.
Dying. They are always saying he has moved us, but he had nothing to do with our plans. We moved for family reasons and by ourselves. I wanted to prove that God had nothing to do with our moving, but I didn't know how. Now that I have Earth superpowers, I can become a god and fight him out of this world. I will become the ultimate god of the universe. Evil laugh. Now we need to head over to McAllister Park. I had the vines holding Whit take him underground through the basement. Then they headed to the slanted stone at the park. While Mr. Whitaker and the vines were on their way, I started heading my way to the park through the front door. As I made it outside, I saw the Emerson girls coming towards me. They stopped in front of me. "I saw what happened here," Chris firmly told me. "I became invisible and floated by the window. We investigated the places and the people disappeared from and suspected you. But we had no way of proving it." "Well, how in the world would I know those guys would have disappeared without a trace?" I asked them. "Ha! You're guilty," Lisa explained. "What do you mean?" "We never said they disappeared without a trace. How would you know that fact unless you did it yourself?" Sophia explained. "So now what do you have to say for yourself?" "Meet me at the stone we got our powers from, and I'll explain everything," I told them before leaving them baffled. On the way to McAllister Park, I met up with Mark and told him to follow me. Later, I ran into my parents, introduced them to Mark, and asked them to follow me. I thought I heard Mark say to himself, "Here it comes. Whatever it is she never told me about, I have a feeling it won't be great." When we arrived at the stone, I stood in front of it and brought Whit out from under the ground, still wrapped in the vines, and set him with my parents. The Emerson girls arrived as I summoned the elements from the stone. Now that everyone is here, I will become the ultimate god.
Bum, bum, bum.
That's it. That is where it ends. That is it. I didn't think that was how it was going to end.
Oh my
I kept
Lord.
trying to scroll, being like, there's another chapter, right? There's got to be something else.
That's just it.
That is literally it.
That's just it.
That is
and
the
it
end.
hasn't been modified for years.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
That was a lot. I mean, Alicia, I feel like you started out really strong and then, faded as it went on. Which, I mean, for an amateur writer, I respect that. No judgment here. Didn't get any tie-up when you said how many of the loose ends are going to be left. All of them.
Right, well, this is honestly, kind of what I was expecting.
Yeah. I mean, I figured she was going to have a come-to-Jesus moment.
Yeah, but I was like, the number of, like, fanfic or, like, that sort of thing on the internet I have read that just ends, I was like, this will not surprise me if that's where we just ends. Go. It's beautiful. It's absolutely
Was there a
beautiful.
10th chapter that was never written?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. She was intending to continue it.
Okay.
I don't think that that's where it actually is supposed to end.
Okay.
Oh, no, not for a second. This is the way, like, writing free stuff on the internet always works.
Yeah. Although we'll see with your clock narrative. I don't know.
Right.
How is that going to be tied up?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hopeful. Let's find out right now. Oh man, the clock.
Whoa! Hold it.
Hold it. I'm pretty sure it's hold in.
Is that a joke? No, he's totally saying hold it. I thought.
What? No, it's hold in.
Hold in. Hold in what?
What? Like it's getting away from him. Like hang on. Like hold in. I don't know. What would hold it be?
Like slow down. Like it's getting away. Hold it. Like.
Oh no.
Oh no. I've broken it. I've broken Odyssey.
All right. This is the final chapter of
excited.
Just a Watch.
Just a Watch. How many loose ends are you going to be left?
I don't know. I'm really hoping it concludes.
Is this a long chapter?
It's been so well written. I mean, same length as the other ones.
Okay.
Constance drummed her fingers against the console. It had been exactly 3 months, 6 days, 14 hours, and 22 seconds since they had crashed on Earth. Not that she was counting, of course. Drat this internal clock. John busied himself with trying to fix the TARDIS, and she needed to take her mind off what had happened, so she went exploring. Earth was interesting, to say the least, especially the inhabitants, although they reminded her of her own people lost to her forever. But it did all become boring after a while, especially since John didn't let her go out after dark or beyond the city limits without him there. So she took to watching him try to fix their ship, which was just as, or even more, boring. Man, no surprise that Whit doesn't let her out of his sight.
Yeah, really.
John.
John
and Constance brings me so much joy. It's such a good bit.
It is so strange.
With a final twist of a screw, John pulled himself from under the console, handing him a cloth. Constance couldn't help but laugh at his oil and dirt-smudged face. Wiping his forehead and ignoring her giggles, he dashed to the other side of the console. "That should do it," he said, pressing down a few buttons. "Really? Like we could finally leave?" She brightened at this. He nodded, grinning. Like most, if not all Time Lords, traveling was in their blood, and being tied to one spot for several months had given them a severe case of cabin fever. The engine spurted to life, and the lights flickered on. Constance squealed, and John laughed, the first real laugh he had had since they got here. But then, nothing. What? The grins on their faces disappeared as fast as they had come. John felt his way to the control panel and flicked a few switches. The bright emergency lights glared down, giving them a frail, washed-out look, which only accentuated the disappointment radiating in their features. "That's it." John threw down the cloth and angrily made his way towards the stairs. "That's it," Constance echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're just gonna give up?" He paused. "There's nothing more we can do." He sighed as he ran his fingers through his flaming red hair, still facing away from her. "I've done every single thing I've thought of to get her up and running again." No. Interesting.
I mean,
Yeah, he
It's
could be
strange.
any hair.
yeah.
I've done every single thing I've thought of to get her up and running again. I just don't have the parts to fix her properly. Only on Gallifrey, maybe 2 other planets in 500 years I could get them. But we need a time machine to get there. His voice trailed off. In a sudden flare of rage, his fist made contact with the wall. For half a second, he forgot what had happened in a flash of pain. That's not going to help. He finally turned and saw her standing there, tears rolling down her face, but strong, hands planted firmly on her hips, in the best impression of what his mother, mother she could must. Oh my word. But strong, tears rolling down her face, but strong, hands planted firmly on her hips, in the best impression of his mother that she could muster. Mother and musters, real tongue twister.
Yeah.
He leaned his head against the wall. I'm sorry, Khan, he whispered. I tried so hard. I tried. His reserve fell off like a mask. He crumpled on the floor in tears. He had held back his emotions, trying to be strong for her, but one can only do that for so long until they break. He heard soft footsteps behind him, then a hand on his shoulder. She sat beside him, her very presence being a comfort. 1,000 thoughts coursed through his mind, 1,000 things he wanted to say. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. She understood everything, though, and wrapped him in a tight embrace. 5 years later.
Oh.
Martha, the doctor whined. How much longer? What have I done? He grumbled to himself. The day had started out normally enough, with him tinkering around the TARDIS and she forcing him to eat something. He would comply by grabbing a banana. That's not enough. If you were a real doctor like me, you'd know that, and get back to work. She would fix herself a proper breakfast and set an example of what you should have for the first meal of the day, and watch him until the TARDIS had enough. So when he cut the next wire, she burned him. Martha dressed his wound, and he mentioned that she'd like to do some shopping. He set coordinates for a grocery store on Earth, but the TARDIS had other plans. When they stepped out of the ship, instead of seeing London, they were greeted by a large sign that said, "Welcome to Shiblor, home of the biggest shopping planet in the galaxy." The doctor laughed and said something about how Shiblor literally translates into mall, but Martha didn't hear him. She was ecstatic, and he knew he was in for a long day. So we now have the actual doctor involved.
Interesting. I thought that's what was being established,
Yep.
but I wasn't sure.
Yep.
Cool.
Oh man, I'm now concerned this isn't gonna work. Is it not gonna conclude? I'm really scared now. I really want it to. All right. Just a few more minutes, Doctor, she said absently for the umpteenth time that hour. Traveling with the doctor had its pros and cons, one con being the doctor's nagging and whining, but she was a naturally patient person and had soon learned to block it out. She tried looking over her list, but something was bugging her. She had started to feel uneasy shortly after landing on the planet, but had ignored it in shopping. Then it had progressed until she felt someone was always behind her, never close, never far. Doctor? She looked up from her list. He had his mouth open, presumably again to protest about how long they had been there, but quickly shut it at her glare. Yes? He squeaked after a short moment of silence. She sighed. He could be such a baby sometimes. Do you feel like someone is watching you? His demeanor instantly changed.
I always feel like somebody's watching me.
Got no privacy. Oh. His demeanor instantly changed. He looked around in a very secret agent-like way. Yes, he whispered. I've felt it for some days now. Someone's tracking us? She screeched. The doctor covered her mouth, which she clawed off and repeated, whispering, Someone's been tracking us. It was his turn to sigh. Yes, at least I think so. What are you going to do about it then? Relax, Martha. If they had wanted us dead, we'd be dead by now. He turned and started heading back to the TARDIS. You can't just walk away, she sputtered, jogging to keep up with his long-legged stride. His words made her anything but relaxed. I've been doing something about it, you know, he said quietly. Well, that's a relief, she said with more than just a touch of sarcasm. What? Wherever we've landed over the past days, I've had the TARDIS do a scan of all life forms on the planet, he stated proudly. So? Bloody Time Lord. How does that help us? It means Martha, bloody human, needs everything spelled out for her. That I'll be able to look through the data and see which ones were there wherever we've been. It'll narrow it down at least. They walked in silence for several minutes, thinking. The doctor wasn't too worried. Most life forms the scanner had picked up were peaceable creatures. Martha, on the other hand, was extremely worried. But if the doctor wasn't, why should she? There was a rustle in the bushes behind them, and several pairs of bright glowing eyes peered out, accompanied by a loud sniffling. The doctor put his hand out to get Martha's attention. Don't turn around. Don't stop, he whispered. Act casual. He grabbed her hand and started whistling a lively tune. Why? She breathed, her heart pounding in time to his song. No time. If I say run, 4 large wolfish dogs jumped onto the path before them. Her heart stopped beating altogether when she heard one cry, There he is! Get him! Run! The doctor finished. He dragged her along behind him, all while screaming for her not to turn around. He shoved her into the TARDIS, falling on top of her in the process. They scrambled to their feet, and the doctor ran to the console to dematerialize the ship. He spun around to face her. Did they see her? He yelled the question, grabbing her by the shoulders. Martha had never seen him this agitated. Did they see your face? He shook her a little. No, I don't think so, she shouted back. Why is it so important? He turned to the control panel and started typing furiously into the keyboard, then pausing to sigh and run his fingers through his wild brown hair and down on his face. Martha, do you trust me? She was a little surprised at the question, but answered without any remark. Of course. Good. He pressed a few buttons, and a weird-looking headset with a jumble of wires fell from the ceilings. Because I'll have to become human. What? Why? Doctor? She grabbed his arm to get his full attention. You're scaring me. He stopped, untangling the mess of wires, and took her by the shoulders gently this time. She relaxed slightly at his touch, but was still trembling. Martha, the aliens that are following us are the family of the blood. They're spirits that can possess a living thing. If you like, and they're spirits that can possess a living thing if you like, and their lifespans are only 3 months. That's why they want me. They want the consciousness of a Time Lord to live forever. He stated simply, giving her the condensed explanation. So if you're human, they won't be able to sniff you out. Even though she was far away from completely understanding, it was starting to make more sense. Exactly. He patted her on the shoulders and gave her an encouraging smile, which she tried to return but failed. How could you tell it was them? And why didn't they show up on the scanner? The answer to number 1, the doctor adjusted the headset to fit him properly. I could feel them trying to suck the life out of me. Literally. Before Martha could reply, he continued. To answer number 2, they don't have bodies. I set the TARDIS to only scan for life forms with bodies, as I thought only bodily creatures would be any threat to us. He set down the headset and started typing in coordinates. Remember when I said I was the last of my people? He asked, abruptly changing the subject. Uh-huh. You said they all died in the war or something. She came up beside him. Well, I just found out several weeks ago that's not entirely true. Martha's face lit up, a stark contrast to what was said a few seconds prior. That's great, isn't it? I mean, you won't be along anymore. The doctor put up his hand to stop her. What? Aren't you glad? Yes. He let himself have a half smile before continuing. But if they knew it was my fault they lost their planet and their people. But then why are we going to see them? She asked, assuming that's where he had set the coordinates. Because they're sitting ducks, so to speak. Their TARDIS is down, and so they won't be able to know if and when they come. He sighed. I'd rather face 2 members of the High Council than let the family of blood live forever.
The end.
The freaking end.
All right. You know, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey.
Oh, my word. So good. Like, well written.
It was
We've got
very well
multiple storylines going on at once. We've got this thing with someone has taken over Connie's body in the present.
Yeah.
We've got this Connie-Jason romance that's being worked out really nicely. We've got the Wits mystery watch and the mystery watch in Connie's attic. We had Penny in there. We then like
Time Lord, alternate reality, John and Constance.
John and Constance. Then we get the Doctor and Martha.
And then the Doctor's going to save John and Constance.
Right. And that's where it ends.
Man. I mean, I love fanfic, don't get me wrong. But I am so bummed we didn't get any real legit endings out of either of those stories. Ugh. It just means the market's wide open for us to jump into the Odyssey fanfic.
Yeah. Now I'm like, I gotta track down Dancing in the Shire and see if they've been doing anything in recent years. The answer is no. They haven't published any fanfics since 2015. But maybe I can find them and convince them to come back.
I think they're a special guest on the podcast for sure.
Oh, I would love that.
To get a final, unwritten bullet points from George R.R. Martin ending.
Yeah.
For these novels.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that will be another thing another time, or we'll track that down. But that brings both of our fanfic stories to an end.
Wow.
What a ride.
I mean, I haven't read Odyssey fanfic before doing this show and doing this.
Same.
So I was expecting it to be a lot more similar to Odyssey.
Well, and to be fair, I think some of the earlier ones we did were.
Yeah.
But these two longer form stories we found were not.
At all.
Mine was a legit crossover with Doctor Who, and yours...
I don't even know. She is gone now, I think.
Yeah.
I really hope Alicia just I don't know, maybe backslid in real life and then decided to give up on the project. Be like, this is a good stopping point. This feels true. I don't need to write that final chapter.
Yeah. I hope,
I am a god.
I hope Dancing in the Shire is now a published author.
I hope so too.
But yeah, that I think does it for this episode of Candid Conversations. Or Candid Commentaries, rather. Candid Conversations is Odyssey.
Yes.
Candid Commentaries. Expect a little break for fanfic. We'll probably go back to doing some episode commentaries. We also have a long list of other ideas.
So many.
So, stay tuned. And hey, maybe we'll cover fanfic sometime in the future. As always, if you want to reach out with ideas on what we should or could cover in the future, whether it's specific fanfic that you have discovered
or
and
written.
need to enlighten us on, or written, though we can't promise we'll be nice, or just other random thoughts for things that don't fit the format of the show, questions you have for us, discussion topics, whatever. Feel free to email us, wadfamchalkpod@gmail.com, or DM us on any social media. We're checking those places, and just thanks for doing this with us. I think we are past the 6-month point of doing the bonus show, and it's been really fun for us. Hopefully you're enjoying.
It's been so much fun for us.
And thanks for supporting. All right, now it's for the awkward point where Dylan has to figure out how to stop the episode. Stop.